So, good evening, Deep, and welcome to the Digital Excellence Pharma Academy again. So, Deep, you have begun the new year on the right note with the emphasis to develop pharma business leaders as part of our DEPA certification program. The very first module is all about leaders. So, as Atish Majumdar said in his session, that everything rises and falls on leadership. So, I think it's only appropriate that we begin with the session on leadership. So, my first question is then to you is that as leaders, we need to have a clear understanding of what is talent and why is it so important to develop talent, and maybe from the background of the McKinsey's work, path-breaking work on the war for talent, you could throw some light on this.
I think that that's possibly the very important question, Anup. Let's understand what exactly talent is first before we get into why it is important, and what's the consequences if you don't have that talented people in the organization. So usually talent is considered the people, those who are on the upper 10% of what they do in any position, any function. So that's what talent usually described in a HR lingo. And the other important point is what separates best from the rest. Now that's an important question. So let's look at that. To be good at anything requires some knowledge, some skills, and some technical know-how. Both best and the rest have that, undoubtedly. That's the reason why they are in the business. Okay. But one thing that separates best from the rest is the abilities to adjust, adapt, and be resourceful in the face of change. As last year, when the most leaders faced the pandemic challenge for the first time possibly in their life, the challenge of that kind of magnitude, there were only handful of leaders who displayed abilities to take meaning from the past and did different things to impact the organization results and sustainability and possibly the comforting people and everything. So that's what I believe separates them from the rest. And that is what leadership talent is all about.
Great. So, the biggest challenge we have seen from the Medicine Man DEPA survey is that the biggest challenge in digital adoption, rightly shown that 48% said that the availability of the right talent is the biggest challenge. So, your thoughts, Deep, as we look at the survey, which we've already done earlier.
Yeah, so thanks for bringing that out, Anup, because this is what very recently we have done, and this is yet to publish. And very soon, our audience will have a copy of this very important piece of research. So, when we ask our respondent, which is, I think, the over 300 people, what is the biggest challenge in the digital adoption? And 48% of them said that availability of right talent. Now, this signifies a great deal that is happening in this area, and rightfully so. If you really look at that, there is something that tells that the organization not done enough to build this talent. Okay. The other part, when we look at from the change perspective, when the uncertainty or once in a lifetime event like pandemic happened, majority of the leader choose to rely on successful habits from the past. And obviously there is a natural tendency to stick to what is familiar and go back to the comfort zone and repeat what has worked for them previously. Even the doctors change their prescribing habit to more safer and more established alternative than possibly that trying out something new during the pandemic. So it's a pretty natural. But then on the other hand, the challenge is how do you get out of these ruts and try something new, learn something new, do something different to respond to the pandemic or any phase of change. Because whether we like it or not, those changes are going to be part of our life, as we have seen in last decade or so. So the leaders who learn lesson from the work and life faster, usually these are the people, those who are no different in terms of their IQ or knowledge standpoint. They're the same people, but they simply have more learning strategies in their arsenal to help them learn what to do when what they have been doing isn't working well. So that's something that's important. And that's the definition for me for a talent.
Great. It's good to know that the biggest challenge is availability of talent. And I think we at Medicine Man, as always, have taken the right step in setting up the Digital Excellence Pharma Academy, thanks to our partnership with CredoWeb to begin the process of talent development from May onwards through a series of webinars, question answers, and the discussion platform. So this is a very powerful perspective that you are given, the two different perspectives that leaders can have. It's a good adaptations of the theory X and theory Y. So talent developer and why talent development fails. So Deep, could you dig in a little bit deeper into this so that our audience have a better understanding of these two powerful perspectives?
So if we divide leadership into two categories, so there are people who are really talent developer, and there are people that don't believe in that. If you look at that, who are the people, those who are talent developer? And these are the people that most of the time that put a high priority on developing teams. They are very good in terms of their relationship, in terms of how they use coaching, feedback, expose teams to the stretch assignments, give them a challenging projects and things like that, and continuously try and see that they are learning new things. They are the people that focus on present and they focus on future. The good thing about these guys also, they align the career goals of their teams with the organizational objectives. So whatever they are learning, actually that organization is benefiting out of it, because the organization support is very essential in this. And the other thing which is always very important, they encourage people to accept developmental moves. On the other hand, there's a plenty of leaders that are not so much focused on the developing team. They don't believe that people want to develop. Okay. They also believe that developing people is a HR responsibility or somebody else's responsibility, and that's not part of their responsibility. Many of them don't know how to develop people, or maybe insecure, so that they kind of reluctant to share the spotlight. And what happens if my subordinate becomes smarter than me? What will happen to my position? The other very practical point is how they manage time, or they may be that lacking patience, because developing people require a hell of a lot of patience. Many times, I think that one of the most uncomfortable part is giving that developmental feedback. That's a crucial conversation, and many leaders, they avoid that kind of conversation. So this is too powerful perspective. Many leaders don't realize that if they don't believe in people development, or they don't support the people development at this point of time, they derail from their career. These are what many of the researchers club together as a career installer or career stopper. And the prominent one, career installer, doesn't inspire and build team, which means they don't pay adequate attention to build their teams or get the right people in the team, or possibly simply they are poor administrator. The other part is again that their focus is too narrow. Maybe sometime they have a key skill deficiency. If at the leadership level, if you don't really understand how do you change or adopt that technology or digitalization and things like that, that's the biggest deficiency. Not being strategic, I think that's another very commonly what we have seen. Or the over dependence on an advocate, or over dependence on a single skill. The other part we have seen is lack of political shaviness, or what we say the political missteps, lack of ethics and values, or the block person learners. Now, these are very important many times because you are too busy focusing on the business or the other part of delivering. These are hugely neglected in terms of priorities given to these areas. And that's the reason that many successful leaders derail and fades away. We have seen that in many organizations, and so that's the reason why we thought that it might be important that we generate this awareness amongst the leaders that this is a crucial area as a part of their responsibilities.
Great. So you have brought it out very well under these three heads, the 10 points that can cause the leaders to derail. So it's not just the two perspectives, talent developer and not being a talent developer, but not being a talent developer because of any of these 10 reasons can actually lead managers to derail their own career. So I think that this should make most of them to adapt to become talent developers because it then leads to addressing these 10 issues as well as leading to the organization's progress. Yes, this is our obligation as leaders. And I think it's very important to move from going beyond the number one point that you have shared earlier is our obligation as leaders. So, time invested in developing people really pays off. So you're a coach, Deep, for a long time, and it's great to see these perspectives. And maybe you can throw some more light on the data that we have here.
This is important, and I think that Zenger Folkman talks about in their work. This is a research work they did in Extraordinary Coach, which was published some time back, and very interesting piece of observation here. So, if coaching or developing people is one of the leaders' strength, but the driving for results is not, the chances of them being at the top 10% of talent is only 4%. On the other hand, if driving for results is one of your strengths, but developing people is not, then chances improves only to 7%. But the moment you club these together, and if anybody who has ability to energize people to achieve results and regularly develop people by coaching, mentoring, and other effectively, using other tools, their chances of being in the top 10% of leader increase dramatically to 85%. So that's something that we would like to highlight, that while we have a too much focus on the results, and many times people development or team development is taken a backseat. And I think that there's hundreds of research papers when we really look at that developing people is not seen as a priority, I think, across the industry. And that's the reason why I thought that this piece of information might really help.
Certainly, this is definitely an eye opener that most people think that focus on results is important and may not focus on coaching and developing people, but it's almost like a synergistic effect that when both are combined, you have an extraordinary possibility of being in the top 10% of successful leadership when you combine result orientedness and also take the trouble of developing people. So here's a great man, my favorite example of leader, Zubin Mehta, our own Indian internationally acclaimed orchestra conductor. And what's all this perfect harmony about, Deep?
So when you look at that first belief that most people want to grow and develop, right? And that's where the developmental mindset starts. And most people have aspirations to do well and be rewarded with more pay and higher position. And most people have dream and goals they want to achieve. So when any organization, when you look at that development preparation for the position with a greater responsibility, now what I think, these three steps should be in a perfect harmony. And that's the reason why Zubin Mehta came in picture here. He has many concerts that spellbound the audience with his perfect harmonies. So the first part is that the person need to be ambitious, willing to do what requires to grow and progress. And that's the important part. Second is that organization has to have a process in place to help those who want to grow. Now, without organization willingness of defining the process, it may not be possible. And most importantly, the bosses, the leaders, has to be an active player in all this three-step process, right? So without bosses' time, interest, and effort, people will not grow much. So people can't develop themselves without help. So the organization help, bosses help are important. People won't grow if the organization show no interest or offer no support. And people won't grow if you don't make it a priority. Now, when we combine all these things together, you need to take it as a perfect harmony.
Great, wonderful combination of one has to be ambitious and willing to take up larger responsibilities, and there is a need for this organization's belief and commitment to the development process, and most importantly, again, the role of leader to be an active player. And when these three factors are in harmony, I think you can produce the perfect symphony for which Zubin Mehta is so well known for. So all this deep goes to show again that our 70-20-10 model of development, which we have been talking for the last 1 month or so, and how true learning requires active engagement and practice and not just exposure to information, which is coming by way of these webinars and question answer sessions, and that relationship based vehicles are important and valuable tools. They're also powerful facilitators of experience based learning. But I would like you to tell us a little more about what is this 70-20-10 model of development all about? Because all of us talk about it, but I don't think everybody really understands the importance or the significance of the 70-20-10 model.
Okay, so first thing is that one should not look this model in isolation, right? So this is a blended model or holistic way of learning. So when you look at that education or exposure or relationship, what we talk about, or experience. Now, what we all believe is that experiences is still the best form of learning. So let me elaborate a little bit more and possibly go a little deeper into this and maybe put more elements into it, right? These are how the successful people develop. These are the 5 steps which are important here. So when you look at that, successful and effective leaders get to be that way by responding positively and adaptively over a long period of time to diverse but specific experience. Now, these are very important part that when we say diverse and specific experience, because if you're doing something and you continue to do the same thing to get better, you are actually getting into what we call competency trap. So many people start with sales and stay with sales throughout their life. Now, those are the people, those who are experts. And unfortunately, in a event of changes, those people suffers most. So basically, what we are talking about can be grouped into this 5 types. So what are those 5 types? And let's try and understand each of these things. The first part is challenging jobs, which means starting up something, or you're expanding to a larger operation, working on a time limited project from crisis to system installation. Now, these are the things that teach us about subtleties of leadership. These developmental challenges represent what leaders usually actually have to do. And such job teach how to cope with pressure, learn quickly, or deal with the bulky subordinates. In absolute terms, challenging assignments are the best teachers. They provide both the greatest variety and number of lessons requisite for leadership. The second part is bosses and the other people. Now, bosses and other people, both good and bad, serve as a significant role model for values. Exceptional people seems to create a punctuation mark for leaders, either by representing what to be or to do, or what not to be or not to do. So we learn from good bosses, we learn from bad bosses. So that's the reason why we say that bosses are important. So whether by serving as a model of integrity or acumen, or poor ethics or avarice. So certain bosses exemplify how the values play out in the management setting. Third part, which is very important, we must understand that hardship teaches most leaders about their limits. These includes making mistakes, getting stuck in the dead end job. Maybe sometime if you're in a position that you have to fire people, those are really difficult lessons that we learn from the hardship. So, regardless of the event, manager experienced hardship will often look inward and reflect on their resilience and, most importantly, their flaws. And many times in organization, when we say that the organization process in place, these are also part of the process. Third factor, which are very important, is coursework. So, for example, we have webinars. Now, if webinars are combined with, let us say, a pilot project that gives you a hands on experience of doing certain things, and somebody holding hand to support you or give you a feedback or correct you, that's where it becomes a powerful comparison point. The other part is off the job experiences. We are exposed to social work, community service, or any other interactions and things like that, those also are very important. So these are the 5 ways that each of these types of experience teaches something unique. And learning from a variety of experience can lead to one's being a leader with a balance, who are able to respond adaptively to the variety of challenges.
Great. I think you have very well captured that challenging jobs are important. Most of the time, people will try to find jobs that are comfortable. I remember as a medical rep, one of the hardest tasks was to leave my headquarters and move from Mangalore to Bombay. They are two different worlds altogether. But I think it was so challenging that I had to look inward, I had to look outward, and learn from the good bosses, learn from the bad bosses. There were a lot of hardships to be faced. And yes, of course, I did some coursework and some diploma programs. And being in Bombay, of course, involves a lot of off job experiences as you network with the diverse kind of people. And I think you have put all these 5 factors very well into the Medicine Man 70-20-10 holistic approach to build digital competencies. No wonder 70% is experiential learning, and the challenging assignments would come in this, and 20% based on the relationship based learning, and 10% on course learning through the webinars and other factors which we have been talking about in the Medicine Man program. So it's wonderful, Deep, that we have finished the first module of leadership, and the architecture to develop pharma business leader has still 3 more modules of digital, sales and sales management, and customer and patient centricity. So we can sum up this particular leadership module, and what is talent and why is it crucial for organization success now, especially in the challenging time like pandemics, and why do the so-called successful leaders derail? You have clearly explained the factors. And what can pharma do to build talent effectively? And of course, how can Medicine Man help?
Wonderful, Anup. I think that Medicine Man, with a partnership with CredoWeb, are willing to offer a helping hand to anybody that have this ambition and willingness to join hands with us to grow their teams, grow their organization, and possibly develop the talent that is future ready or ready for any future. And we are willing to extend our support and whatever we know in terms of developing talent. So we are looking forward for people to join us. Let's take this journey together.
Thank you for this wonderful time that you have taken. So much of trouble, as can be seen, that you are obviously those leaders who believe in developing talent, as your track record clearly shows. And we hope that people will look at these webinars and this certification program with the seriousness and objectiveness that it deserves and prepare themselves for the challenges ahead. So thank you once again, Deep, and I look forward to the other three remaining modules that we will do in February, March, and concluding in April 2021.